May the Most High guide my mind, my spirit, my body, my language, and my speech as I approach unto you, his people. We've decided to try to do some lessons in this manner as opposed to having a class. We don't have a big assembly here because we haven't finished remodeling, putting together the temple yet. So we haven't put a call out for the people to come together and to assemble. So we thought that it would be a more effective way if we did live video skits for like 20 minutes apiece. The live on Facebook, if that's going on, and that will last as long as it lasts, but the recordings that we'll be doing also will only be for approximately 20 minutes per question or 20 minutes per 2 questions, however it goes.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Today is the Shabbat day, September 21st, 2019. May the Most High be pleased with our efforts to give him glory and to teach the earth of his truth. All right, Isha, we're going to start with you.
All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So the first question I have is pertaining to a conversation that I was having with Higdalia about Hebrew names and how we carry our names. You know, like if you take on a Hebrew name, it's your responsibility to carry that name with dignity, especially if you add Yah to it or a reverence to the Most High onto it, like many people do. So my question to you is, what is the importance of a name?
So you be asking them questions that I don't expect people to even really, that's a really deep question.
It is.
First, I want everybody to know that these questions, I don't even know the questions that's coming at me. These are questions they wrote up on their own and decided to ask of their own. So everything that you get is spontaneous, unrehearsed, and just the way it is. I think that's the best way to teach. It shows the character of the teacher, his intellect, his spiritual growth, his development. What is the importance of a name? Is that your question?
That's my question.
Your name is so important that a lot of our fathers that we read about in the scriptures, we don't know their names.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, David, King David. He was beloved of the Most High. So when they wrote down his story, they wrote his name as beloved of the Most High. It's an attribute to his character and who he is and who he was. His son, Shlomo, he had 40 years of reigning on the throne of Israel in peace. His name is Shlomo, which means his peace. I believe Shlomo had another name, Jedediah, but it was changed to Shlomo because his peace. Moshe, when we read about Moshe, his name is Moshe, and if you remember, he was named by an Egyptian woman. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a Hebrew name. And his name meant draw forth. And he was drawn forth from the water. But to go a little bit deeper, he drew us forth. He was the instrument that the Creator used to bring us forward out of the land of captivity into another dimension of time.
Okay.
So the people's name, and you can go forward throughout the scriptures and look for different individuals, and you'll always find that people's characteristics through the scripture matches their names. You know? But as an individual, alive today, you know what my name is? That's wonderful. My name is Kizaridar. You know what that means? It means the Creator shall protect the King. My name is Aramaic. That's something. But anyway, the person's characteristic, the person's responsibility, and the person's purpose in life should be carried forward through their name. You just can't name your child Pumpkinhead and expect Pumpkinhead to grow up and be a great man.
Right.
Now, let me deal with it on a more esoteric level. The power of vibration is in the tongue.
Okay.
To crack seals on existence or manifest destiny, to crack seal on these things, it comes through the ability to have a certain code to crack the seal. Within your name is a code to marry who you are as an individual to your life.
Right.
When you give your children biblical names, that's a lot for them to have to live up to. When you speak a child's name and you give them biblical names, you give that child more of an opportunity to flourish and prosper in life than if you named him after the slave masters.
Okay.
See, the Hebrew were the elite of the world. So all of our languages, all of our names that are spoken with the ancient tongue, it has a vibration to it, which brings forth an essence of life or energy into the individual, which allows that individual to capture something that Tom or Helen or Bob can't capture. Because in Bob, you don't see, Bob don't even have the same resonance as Ezekiel or Hezekiah. You know, it doesn't have the same type of strength or pull into it because it doesn't have the same vibration. It's like on a frequency level. And a lot of people are not able to travel, so I'm probably losing them. So I'll just bring it back home. It's best that when you name your child, you try to name your child with the intent of what you would like to see performed in their life. The overall purpose of their life is best way for you to name your child. And then a lot of individuals want to name themselves. I think that it's best that you wait until the father, if you're a sister, then your husband can pick a name for you. If the Creator picks a name for you, being you're a sister or a man, you go with that name. And usually what it is that name is identifying something about your purpose in this life, in this earth. What your mission is that you are to fulfill. You know, I had a young man one time, his mother named him Elohim.
Strong name.
Very strong.
Yeah, but Elohim is maybe too strong for the human form.
Right.
Correct.
That's what I mean.
It might be a little too strong for the human form to have that type of vibration and still grow in a healthy condition.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest that you would name your child anything that's even close to an attribute that you give unto the Most High.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot to live up to.
It's not just that it's a lot to live up to, but if you heard the lesson that I said, the energy that you bring by calling that name, and see, the power of thought, as I get back to it again, the power of thought is strong, super strong than what we understand. If I keep going through life every day complaining, I'm gonna have a bad life. Because the thought, the power of that thought is in there. So if you name your child Elohim, but yet you read the scriptures and you say Elohim, call that same energy is the energy that you're now trying to put into your child, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. The Most High should be Kodesh, holy, set apart, set aside.
Okay.
And everything that you apply to the Most High, unless it's something that's really dealing with humans, then everything that you apply to the Most High should be set aside for the Most High and Him alone. You don't want to be jealous.
Okay.
All right. So I pray that if you are a man or individual and you pick a name for yourself or a woman and you pick a name or have your husband pick your name, that you research and study what that name is, because you are now responsible for fulfilling that portion of a name or that role or that station in life. And when you surname yourself by the name of Yisrael, you can't be called by the name of Yisrael and always sitting up in somebody's jail for doing evil, or somebody's courtroom for doing evil. Now, I'm not saying breaking their laws, because their laws doesn't always mean that you did something evil.
Right.
I'm speaking about doing evil according to the ways of the Almighty. You can't do that. As the name Yisrael, you have a whole lot to live up to. A whole lot. So your name is very important. What you name your child is very important. And you should be real careful about the name, the amount of letters in the name, the sound of the name. And a lot of people probably getting a little scary, but I'm telling you, what I'm speaking is real powerful stuff on a real spiritual level, and it's all coming out to Tanakh. It's all coming out to Tanakh. So you have to be careful in how you do certain things and what you call individuals, because the power of the tongue is unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. I pray that that answers your question. If not,
Yes, it answered my question.
all right. Tell the Rabbi.
And goodbye.
All right, my brother.
All right,
You speak a little louder.
okay, sure. I was wondering, now I know as Israelites, we should separate ourselves from the heathens and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Now, also, I know that in the latter times that the Most High said that some of them would sojourn toward us.
Okay.
And I was wondering, so how do we, basically, we're supposed to separate from them, but they sojourn toward us. So how should we interact with that?
When the Father prohibits us from being a part of with the heathens, it's not necessarily physically.
Okay.
It's more spiritual and mental. It's partaking in their ways and their customs. It's imitating their actions of unrighteousness and evil. That's what the Father's saying. Because if you notice, he says that the way that they worship their power or their deity, we are not supposed to do that.
Okay.
We're not supposed to worship him in the manner in which they worship their deities. He considered that to be evil. So it's more like their practices, their customs, their traditions. We're not to learn that. And this is what's bringing about that separation. So if that separation brings about a physical separation, then so be it. But in the last days, as the scripture says, not necessarily in the last days, I believe it's in Isaiah the 14th chapter, starts at the first verse. It speaks about how there will come a time where those who are held captive will now hold those who held them captive.
Okay.
So that means that in these days, they're going to become our servants and we're going to be their masters. We are the priest, the nation of priests. You find that in Exodus, the 6th chapter. I believe it's the 19th verse. We are a nation of priests unto the earth. So the Most High has set us up to be, quote unquote, gods in the earth. He has set us up to be Elohim in the earth, to teach others how to serve him and how to draw closer to him and how to walk toward him in truth. So this is why, I believe it's in the book of Joel, where it speaks about the nations will come and take a hold of the hem of your garment and say, lead me to your power. That's your job. If you look in the book of Isaiah, the 45th chapter, 42nd chapter, it also tells you that you should be a light unto the nations. So this is our job as the children of Israel. Remember, we carrying that name, resonating with force and power. It is our job to lead, but to lead in righteousness. So no, we don't have to necessarily separate from them physically unless they're just that evil. Now, a lot of people might say, well, Prince, that's not what the scriptures say. Scripture says that flee Babylon. But there's also places in the scriptures that tell you to draw, when you get into Babylon, you go into captivity, build ye houses, plant you vineyards, because you're going to be there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So when you're there, you do come together as your people. You're living in the midst of those people, but you don't hold on to their customs. You don't hold on to their traditions. You gravitate toward the laws of the Most High. Remember in the book of Hadassah?
Okay.
In the book of Hadassah, they lived in Shusha near the palace,
Mm-hmm.
but yet they had their own laws that they abide by.
Yeah.
Those were the laws of the Almighty
Mm-hmm.
that Mordecai and the rest of the family abided by. Those were the laws that were set apart, that was used as accusations against us, and it should be this way in this time right now. See that little city we got built up, we're trying to build up right now in Goshen?
Mm-hmm.
That's a place that's going to be in the midst of people of captivity. But what we're attempting to do is take that city and convert that whole town into an Israelite town.
Okay.
You understand? So that's what our intents are. I might have let that out the box. There it is. All right?
Okay.
So does that answer the questions?